Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Playmobile, the movie. So if you end up enjoying this review, consider joining my Patreon page. There'll be the second link in the description below. Any donations are desperately needed. So with that being said, let's talk about Playmobile, the movie. So I think the first thing that I'm going to get out of the way immediately is that now I haven't seen any other people's reviews, but I'm going to assume that a lot of reviewers specifically are going to be comparing this to the Lego movie. So I guess I'll get into that first about how that comparison stacks up. I think the Lego movie had the advantage of having the crossover aspect to it with all its characters, and I think Playmobil toys recognized that Lego was successful, so they wanted to throw their hat into the ring of making a movie based off of its toys, and I think it's alright. I saw some tweet about this as well, saying how this made less money than Arctic Dogs, even though I would argue that Arctic Dogs is a much worse movie. So yeah, there's that. So anyways, let's get into what the actual movie is. The recap portion begins now, and I'll try to stop comparing it to the Lego movie as much as I feasibly can from this point moving forward. So, we begin this movie with a young girl named Marla, who's getting ready to go off to college. She's super excited. This is her big dream. She's getting out there. Her college is like somewhere where she has to travel. And she also has a younger brother named Charlie. So, as they are interacting, she begins to sing. So, this is indeed also a musical. And the beginning of the song is like, I guess her really singing, and then like there's like a part of it, like the second portion of the song, where it becomes much more of a, what I would call a studio song, like the pitch in her voice becomes much more of a song that you can tell is pre-recorded. And that's when she also starts to move about a little bit more. So there's that. So after her little musical number, the two of them start to play with the Playmobil toys, just for funsies. But tragedy strikes as the police arrive at their house and tell them of really bad news, as telling them that their parents have passed away. And we have a 4-year time skip. Now, a lot of people have issues with time skips depending on, what your movie could have been potentially between those years and what the movie actually is, but I think it depends on each situation, so I don't think it affects this particular movie all that much. Anyways, so she's now in charge of the household. So she's looking at her passport, kind of putting that aside now, considering her new situation. And we have a thunderstorm building up. And Charlie gets upset with her, saying all this arguing, and he decides to leave. So he ends up heading out, and he ends up finding this, as he's making his way to his friend, I guess, he ends up seeing this toy area, and he ends up saying that he'll take a little bit longer as he wants to check it out. So she ends up Marla ends up pinpointing his location. From there, she eventually arrives in the toy store. There, Charlie says how they were meant to be as they interact with one another, how she eventually gets to him, while this cop also was chasing her for like a moment and is like out of breath, and then she moves on ahead to get to him. So Charlie says that because after the parents' death, how in turn she's become much more of a downer person, and he's a bit upset through that. And as the power goes out, the toys around them start to lift up through the magical means, as as soon as that's done, he grabs one of the toys and places it, and as soon as he does, they get sucked into the lighthouse, which is in the epicenter of the toy village setting area. So, Charlie appears as a Viking, and Marla appears as a toy version of Marla. Meanwhile, more boats come in on each side, or boat comes in from one side, and on the other side are more Vikings, and there are Vikings on both sides. So Charlie ends up picking the side that had the ones coming in from the boat, and he finds out through that he is super strong. He's able to easily pick up these other toys and just sort of hurl them around. Meanwhile, these pirates see them in the distance and want them for themselves, as they are hired on by someone else. So the Vikings start to sing, and Charlie eventually joins in on the song, having a grand old time. But at the end of the song, Charlie ends up catapulting himself all the way down, where the pirates can conveniently catch him. Then we see that Marla is concerned, making her way to him, and then we meet Del. We cut to him, and we know from him, he's talking on the phone, that someone is asking from some money from him. And Marla ends up taking his truck, so he just assumes that she is the collector at first. So Charlie vanishes with the pirates. It's like a Banff sort of thing going on there. And Marla sees another horse, which ends up, riding away, and the horse leaves behind this bag with 2 coins in it. So she ends up in this desert western town, and she's trying to ask for help. She asks this old man for help, and he doesn't really offer anything, and she goes to the sheriff, who is more distracted by these bandits. So Marla ends up calling up to the town. Mind you that Del bumped right back into her once they got there, oh so conveniently. So, as she offers her 2 coins, the town goes after her for just the 2 coins, and she ends up trying to attack and flee. So Del picks her up with the van. With that, he's looking at those coins, thinking that he can, through payment, offer to help her. So they end up driving through this Jurassic land, and then we cut to Charlie, and all of these other captured toys from different lands. We have besides a Viking, I believe one of the other ones was one of the pirates who wasn't a part of the initial crew of pirates. There was a space bounty hunter, and then there was an Amazon warrior, and then sort of this caveman character as well. And those are the 5. And then we meet our villain named Maximus, or just Max for simplicity's sake. So Max begins to sing his villain song, and for all intents and purposes, it's a decent song, I thought. It was okay. Nothing crazy, but it was alright. So the warriors are all dropped down. We cut back in to see Marla and Del go to the snow area. Del is mentioning how he knows this individual that can help them out. Cut to meeting Rex. Now, Rex is a spy toy with his own custom theme song, and his entire gimmick is thinking that Marla is immediately attracted to him. And he gives them the scoop of this building that has a satellite that can potentially help them pick up Charlie's location. Charlie's location. Anyways, Marla ends up playing this part of this boss character for the satellite building. Meanwhile, Del knocks himself off while the real boss makes her way inside the building. So they interact, the real boss and Marla, they grab Rex and they try to flee away. They get chased some more, and the pirates knock out Rex. Like, they get separated after the chase scene because like Rex is like, "I'll hold them off" or something along those lines. Um, so Marla's checking the footage and she sees that they keep poofing and doesn't understand. We see Del cook some food and that she enjoys the food, and he comes to some sort of revelation that he's supposed to like be a cook or something. Sees the symbol of the boss that he was supposed to send money to. Kind of convenient, but whatever. Charlie starts to talk with him as they move into this future zone where they meet Glanara, the person he owes money to. They also see this little robo-toy that is like working for her. So she sort of gives a little information while the payments of the 2 coins kind of gets on about. Charlie gets, sorry, I keep getting them mixed up now. In my notes I did, that's why I keep doing that. Anyway, gets the key with the bounty hunter and the pirate helping him out. And the caveman as well, helping them get to the water. As they get to the boat, the pirate sings a relatively short song that's short-lived as he gets cut off pretty quickly. They manage to get on the boat, and everything seems to be going fine as they are about to be chased down, but the boat ended up still being tied to the dock, and they all get sent flying back as soon as they try to leave. So Del and Marla end up are like tied up, and they're about to get like gooped into this teleporter that can send them anywhere. And due to the robot being there and them confronting the robot in such a nice manner, the robot ends up saving them, going with them as well. And the 3 of them now end off in this grassland, but Del runs off considering. Yelling at or arguing with Charlie about how she lied about the money because there wasn't enough money. She kept saying throughout the movie, or up when she had the money, that there was enough and there was only the 2 coins. So Charlie feels regrets and then starts to leave. Meanwhile, Charlie is with the 4 other warriors, and they're all tied up by one of those devices. It's not a gallows, but it's one of those old-timey neck and hand wooden cuff things. I forget what they called it in the movie. I know they called it something, and I don't even know the historical name for it. In my notes, I called it a gallows thing, but I know that's not what it is. Anyways, someone in the description can probably just tell me what that is if you watch this far into the review. Anyways, I lost my place in my notes thinking about that anyway. So yes, he ends up like lifting them up, and they flee. The 5 of them flee. They manage to get out of the device. Charlie stays behind as the other flee beneath this grate, the sewer grate. Meanwhile, Marla gets lost in the forest, whereas she saw the castle before, but then she ended up getting lost anyways. And the robot picks up her passport, and she tosses it away, and it hits a fairy. And the fairy spells out the moral of the movie about seeing things that are in plain sight, and then she begins to sing her song. And to give the fairy credit, I think they gave her the best singing voice. Probably not the best song, but the best singing voice, if that makes any sense. So the fairy helps her get ready to send her off to the island, gearing her up and everything. but she tells her that she can't help her directly, and they make a direct reference to Disney and uh, what was it? Not Beauty and the Beast, but the glass slipper. Can't even Cinderella. There we go. So Marla is like making her way there. The robot like helps her up the wall. They knock out one of the guards in the robo. The robot leaves with her. Is like following her, and she tells the robot to stay in a certain area while she sneaks up on ahead. So Max starts the show, and Charlie is sent out, and Marla arrives in a soldier uniform somehow. She was in a like green combat dress, and then she like had like golden armor all of a sudden, and Max lets out the beast, which ends up being a toy T-Rex. So they're trying to flee and fight at the same time, and from out of absolutely nowhere, Del arrives on the scene. And at first, I thought, he was angry and upset, and, you get the cliche of, like, oh, like, Maui from Moana just, like, came back after being that upset and wanting to leave, and then happened to come back. Like, that cliche kind of bugs me, and it still does in this movie. But at least they did a little bit of setup. I'm not saying it's the best setup in the world, but they did say how he talked to the fairy and that he wished for something. So I was able to at least assume that he wished for a way to like make his food popular, and the fairy told him that he needed to go back. That's my assumption. That does not happen in the movie, but at least I can come to that conclusion as by comparison to other times where that happens. It's not always that clear. And I always wish it can always be a little bit clearer, like you can kind of piece it together. So there you go. So anyways, Charlie and Marla get in the car with Del. She's hit with the magical hay. That's what he was like selling beforehand, so she uses that to her advantage, throwing it into the T-Rex's mouth. And before it eats them, it grows wings and gets all blah, blah, blah in the eyes. The other escapers, the ones that were with Charlie, also end up coming back to the arena. And the pirate ends up in the upper area to lock Max up away. So Del does his food promo and is able to get some customers, and Marla lets the T-Rex go. They give their thanks to all the people that helped them along the way, and they take the T-Rex back, and we see them fly across all the areas that Marla has been through. And they get back to the lighthouse, and they are sent back into their human forms. And the cop finally arrives to them and says that only 5 minutes have passed, although I guess he was just huffing for like 5 minutes, it does sound kind of ridiculous that it would take that long for someone to like catch up from where he was to where she was, unless it's like a great deal of distance and he like huffed it there within that 5 minutes. I guess that could make sense, but I don't know the layout of the store, so I don't even know. Anyways, before they leave, the cop gives her the passport back, and then they start to talk. The two of them, Charlie and Marla, end up like talking to each other about the adventures as they work their way home. And then there's a little after-credit sequence where the cop picks up some of the toys that were moved around, and he ends up picking the toy up that was Max and places him back, and we hear the voice of Max as he's like laughing, and that's Playmobile the movie. And again, I think it's okay. It kind of you know, the ending, as I mentioned, has a lot of conveniences happen for the sake of everything sort of coming together. There's a little bit of that gap. As I mentioned, the music is fine. You know, there are quite a few characters. We kind of, I think Rex ends up being like one of the higher end up ones. The other characters, like the bounty hunter and the Amazon, get like these very few moments when we're with Charlie, but we're kind of more focusing on Marla and Dell throughout their little adventure. And that's always a little bit unfortunate, isn't it? When you have characters that just they don't really offer too much to the movie. But I thought it was fine. I think it kind of went through the Disney route, and it even kind of mocked Disney a little bit in the process. Which I always appreciate a little bit of Disney shade now and again, because it's kind of fun to do that, considering. So yeah, I thought it was fine. I'd probably give it like a 5 or a 6. I thought it was alright. You know. So that's my review of Playmobile the movie. It's harmless enough, I suppose. They could have cleaned it up a bit still. Made the music a little bit more robust. You know, make it pop a bit more. Especially the villain song. I felt like they were kind of like they were inching really close to making it like really good, but something about it. I think it was the presentation of like when he's singing, he's just sort of just singing, and they slow him down a little bit, and it has a little bit of that creep factor to it in terms of like the melody, but they don't do much else with it. Like just to compare it to like Scar, like all the puffing and smoke and the dramatics of that, you know, like they could have done something like that just for an example. Anyways, that's enough. If you ended up enjoying the review, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out the links in the description. One right over to my Discord, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.